Thank you very much, Mutia, for that kind introduction. I'm glad to be here this morning for the rest of the day to be part of this very interesting session today. So if you allow me, I would like to share my screen so that I can then take it off from there.
Okay, sir. Please go ahead, sir.
Okay. All right, so I believe my screen is, you can see the screen, right?
Yes, sir. I can see.
Okay, right. So thank you very much. So once again, it's my pleasure to be here this morning. And I start by saying, Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen. A'udhu billahi minash shaitani rajim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa la sharika lah. Wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. I pray Allah to expand my breast to make this task easy for me and to remove any impediment from my speech so that I can communicate freely to you and you can understand whatever I share with you this morning. I ask Allah to teach us, we His servants, what will benefit us in this earth and the day of reckoning, and to guide our course and complete for us our light. My brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Like I said, it's my pleasure to be here, and I really want to thank the organizers, starting from the president, and then my very dear brother, Sahid Bashir of PwC, who contacted me to be part of this, and I gladly accepted to be part of this today. And since then, I've been communicating with Mutia and her team, and I really think it's a good thing that you are doing. So I thank you for inviting me to be the special guest and the keynote speaker at this event, and also to chair one or two sessions later in the day. You have chosen the team to be building the growth mindset for lifelong career success. And this is very interesting. And from the conversation you had so far, even as attested to by some of the things you have been doing by two of my brothers, I'm really very excited because for some of us who have traveled through the route of career, what we have seen is really very challenging. You see Muslims in small proportion, virtually in every institution in the country. Be it banking, be it even in our tertiary institutions as lecturers, be it anywhere, financial services, real estate, FMCG and all of that. You see that we are in small proportion. Yet, like Mutiat noted, we are supposed to be majority in terms of the total population. And so it's very interesting that we are trying to do something that can help us propel our young people to be able to close this gap. So it's very apt, and for me, it's really very interesting. And she spoke to some of the challenges we always have, and I'll share some of them as we go along the line. So you have asked me to focus my speech on SWOT analysis, leveraging on your strengths to reach greater heights. And for the coverage in the next 40 minutes or so, I will do some level of introduction and then talk about what SWOT analysis is and how we can then link it to leveraging strength. And then I will then talk around some tips that we can adopt based on my personal experience. And then I'll have a concluding remarks, and then we'll be expecting that there will be some, questions or comments to whatever I've said. Now, let me say that when I received the letter of invitation, there are two things that I picked up from the letter signed by the president, my dear Sikru Salami, FCA. He said, having you at this event shall avail us rare opportunity to gain inspiration from your life journey and learn important career lessons. So I take that to mean that it will just be easy for me then to be a storyteller today and just share, I have an insight into my journey from when I started working up to this moment and some of the things that I think can be taken away by some of, all those of us that are here in this session. He also set the age bracket of the participants are likely to be between 20 and 40, and most of them are early stage and mid-level professionals. And so this is the crop of people I think I will be addressing my discussion this morning through. Well, I've been around for some time, so sometimes maybe some of the things I may share with you today may not be the real thing that's going on in the workspace, as the case may be, but I know that being in the workspace myself and also, providing leadership in organizations and, interviewing people, appraising people, it's all about the fact that I'm still very, very relevant to share. All the things I will be sharing with you today are still very, very relevant. So I'll start on a note of what my career had looked like since I left the university. I've had some unique characteristics. They have had very exciting career. It's not been monotonous at all because, first of all, I've cut across, both the public and the private sectors. I started my career in public sector and then moved to the private sector. I provided leadership in the private sector for a parastatal, and then I've also been providing leadership at the topmost level in the private sector. So I would say that I've had good opportunity to see the two worlds. And I'm also happy to say that one of the excitement is that I've cut across, industries. So apart from the public service is both public service and civil service. I've been having opportunity in investment, in banking and financial services, in business development, and of course, I've been privileged to set up quite a number of businesses, either for myself and my family or for a group of friends, and I sit on a number of boards. So let me also say that I believe I was relatively on the fast lane in my career. So somehow that fast track was slowed down during consolidation, banking consolidation. Those of us who are very familiar with what happened at that time. Let me say that I started as a young graduate in a tertiary institution that's multi-campus. And one of the challenges as a 23 or 24-year-old guy was that I was within 6 months. First of all, and I think so you should be just noting some of these things for your own consumption and probably for your education. Where I started as the PRO, as the pioneer PRO of that institution, and I read economics. Incidentally, also, there was a guy who read mass communication, has to one like myself. But I was given the PRO, whereas every one of us, when they were going to do our posting, we had expected that he would be the PRO. And the only thing that made me to have that above him was that when I was in the University of Ife, I was an editor of the Nigeria Economic Society Association's, journal, and I had done 1 or 2 articles in addition to be an editor. So I know how to collate articles, how to edit, and all of that at that age. And that was why they gave me that role, and not him. Also, within 6 months, I was, now moved to go ahead the campus registry in the second campus that had 2 colleges of Agric and College of Agric and College of Technical Education. And I think that even led to one of the most senior people, the deputy registrar, to petition the purpose that how could they take a level 8 officer to go ahead that kind of a campus within 1 year of his working life. So that's the first experience I had. Eventually, I left that place and went to the state ministry to join the core civil service in Oyo State. And that was during the Babangida era of, trying to, recreate the civil service. And they created a department called Finance and Supplies, which is still what they still have that today. And I remember that as a level 9 officer, then I used to write most of the speeches. I do the draft of the speeches of the commissioner. The commissioner then was Professor, I think Professor Ario. Those of you who are in UI will know him. It's Professor Ario of the University of Ibadan Economics. He was the commissioner for commerce and industry. I will start I will be the one to write the first draft. And then, of course, at that time, I started doing ICANN. And so when this opportunity came, the PS wanted me to go and head the finance department, even as a level 9. All other people who were in finance at that time were not graduates. But my uncle had to go and intervene and said, he doesn't want me killed at young age, because how do I have level 9 officers supervising level 13? It's also going to be unheard of, and it will be a violation of the civil service rules. So that's one experience. And then when I joined banking as a chartered accountant. I qualified and I joined banking. And I can say that within what is remarkable about this journey is that within 10 years, I was able to move through the ladder from assistant manager to general manager level in the banking industry. I don't know whether that kind of fit is still possible in the banking industry today, but I also know that as we speak today from my interaction with a lot of bankers, some people even don't have more than one promotion within 10 years, which calls for concern. So why are we having this? What can you do to accelerate your career? And so that's part of the tips that I'll be sharing with you today based on my own personal experience. And then I've been CEO for over 15 years. Like Mutiat said in my citation, I was the founding CEO, pioneer CEO of Abuja Enterprise Agency. It's a public agency. It's the parastatal of the FCT government under Elva administration as the FCT minister. And then I came back to Lagos to then have, being the CEO of this CRC Caribbean, this very interesting infrastructure that is changing the landscape of lending in Nigeria since 2008. I sit on a number of boards where appointments and promotions of staff are determined, so I can see how I have an idea of what's going on with a lot of people. And it goes across board, media, IT, banking, and financial services, and so on and so forth. So that's just to let you see what my career journey had been in just a moment. So starting from the concept of the topic, what is SWOT analysis? This is referring to SWOT is an acronym for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And this was created in the 1960s by a guy called Albert Foundry of the Stanford Research Institute. And the main objective of creating SWOT is to help everyone, whether as a business or as an individual, to develop a full awareness of all the factors that are involved in decision making. So basically, Albert Humphrey addressed the issue around business, but we know that SWOT analysis also has been adopted in all facets of life, even for individuals. So it's to just tell you as what are your strengths and weaknesses, what are the internal things as you as an individual, as a business. Where do you think you have that strength? Where do you think, what are your limitations? And then you look outside externally and begin to look at what are the opportunities that are out there, and what are those things that can make it possible for you to realize those opportunities. And those are the things that are called strengths. So it's a very useful tool for understanding and for making decisions in all sorts of situations. And so strength describes what you are good at and what separates you from competitors. And that's what we are going to be hammering on today. The other three, we will still make some level of relevance, some level of, comment on them as I go through this presentation this morning. But what we are looking for here is what advantages, what kind of skill, what kind of education, what kind of network do you really have over other people? And what do you do better than anyone else? And like I said, based on my career, I will just share with you what my and what I'll be able to leverage on those strengths. There are weaknesses which refer to, factors that could improve upon, and that you should try to avoid if you have to avoid them. That's what weakness is, and you should be able to document all of this for yourself. And then you have opportunities, which is what you lack, what is out there. How can you turn your strength into an opportunity? How can you leverage your strength to have an opportunity, what trend will you benefit from in out there, or even in your own organization, as the case may be. And of course, when we talk of strength, we are trying to look at what are the obstacles that you likely encounter that may be external to you, and are your weaknesses threatening your performance? How will all of this affect your ability to get to the apex of your career? So those are just analysis, basic understanding of what strengths and weakness. I mean, what's what analysis is all about. It's about trying to look at yourself and document your strength. And I think you should take time to do it after today. What are the strengths? What do I have that everybody knows? This guy, he has these strengths. But you yourself will know your weaknesses. Some people may know some of them, but of course, the other people may not know as much of you. So when you are frank with yourself, you see what those weaknesses are. And then, of course, you look at the opportunities that are out there based on your strengths. How can you then use those strengths to leverage and gain insight and gain access to the opportunities you have? And how do you ward off the stress that you face? So how do you leverage on your strength to get to your greater height? When you say strength, we would say using more of what you are good at to get more of what you want. So, and you see that in organizations, in businesses, there's diversity of requirements in terms of skill set that they are looking for. So whatever your strengths are, it's likely that you will find in the workplace how that can be deployed for the benefit of your employer, and also much more for your own opportunity to rise to greater heights in the organization. And so once you learn to leverage on those skills, you can then set professional goals for yourself and find the best role to just use that strength to bring to the workplace. So that's what your strength looks like. And we say that the best way to achieve success is to stop focusing on fixing flaws and be good at something. This is very important because in those days, before now, psychology literature has focused on trying to improve on your weaknesses, okay? But in recent time, psychologists also have been able to say that there's no point trying and wasting a lot of resources and time trying to improve on your weaknesses. Why don't you keep on trying to improve on your own strengths? And in that regard, you'll be a shining star. If you look at the football world, the Ronaldos of this world, the Messi of this world are good as scorers. Probably if they make them goalkeepers, they'll probably be nothing. Nobody will have heard their name today. So in a football field, you have people who are just good at goalkeeping. You have those who are good at, the back. You have those who are best. The likes of Okocha are best in the midfield. And then you have strikers who's, when they get ball, the probability that they will score the ball is far, far more than some other people. And that's the way you should look at your life. Okay, so where do you have your strength? Organizations have HR, they have accounting, finance, they have marketing, they have, brand and communication and all of that. Where exactly do you fit in here? And why that is important is because when you find your strength and you leverage on it helps you to find the best role for yourself in the organization, to canvas for this is what I can do best in this organization. And then it allows you to grow, because then if you are doing what you enjoy, you'll be doing what you are not going to be struggling too much to really excel. And then it will increase your productivity because you are not struggling with it. It's like going to be like a magic wand, and it sets you up for leadership. So it makes people to see you to be visible because they know that when it comes to that particular thing, you are the go-to person in the organization. And nobody can be everything. So you just then have to focus on where you have the best of strengths. That strength can be in time management, can be in communication, it can be critical thinking, it could be problem solving, it can be in creativity, in creatives. It can be like you know how to put people together to get things done. It could public speaking. I mean, Mutia just mentioned that some of our colleagues in this MMC don't like to talk much, but she is very well at home speaking, and you can see that even from what you have said so far. It can be writing, it can be graphics, it can be program, anything. These are skills that you can then bring onto the table. In my own case, my major skill set has to do with writing and calculation. I'm very good in writing. I'm very good in calculation, and I have deployed that massively to be where I've always been in my career. So, and this is very important because in career, you see that it's every organization, this is the way it looks like. It's very pyramidal. You have the base. A lot of people are at the base, and then you have to be finding your way towards the middle level to senior level before you can find yourself in the executive. The best place to be is to be at the C-suite, to become an ED or to become the CEO of the organization, or to become the HOD for your department. That's the best place to be. That should be the aspiration of every career person, to reach the pinnacle of your career. So in the academics, your pinnacle is to become a professor. If you're in the school, normal school, secondary school, to become the principal, in the civil service to become the PS, in your organizations is to become general manager or to become executive director and all of that. So it gets, what we see, that gets narrow and narrower as you climb up the ladder, because less and less people have to occupy those topmost positions. And unless you prove yourself, there's no way you can be in that place. So we are not, but we know we are not equal in ability or outcome. Our ability is different. Our productivity is always different, and will never be the same. But there's nobody that enjoys being the base, spending 5 years, 10 years. You've done about 10, 15 years in the banking industry, and you are still below assistant manager, you are still running around the assistant manager position. Whereas the same 15 years, some people have become MD, GM, CEO in the same banking industry. So that's the challenge that you have to confront. What do you have to do? How do you going to leverage on your strength to be able to climb this ladder very quickly and get to the C-suite, which should be your ultimate desire? So I then just have some tips that I said I will then share with you. The first one is to have career plan or career choice, and you have to pursue the sector you like to play in. And you have seen people who have migrated from what they read in school to, becoming something else. The 52-year-old Dr. Adeshola Kazim Adelutan of First Bank read First Medicine at the University of Ibadan, but he never practiced it. He went into banking and then went into accountancy, trained as an accountant, and then he's a finance person today, and he's sitting on top of the First Bank, as the CEO. The 30-year-old Yoluwa, Aboyeji, read legal studies. They went into IT, focusing on how to provide infrastructure that can make life easy and meaningful for people. So from Mandela to Flutterwave and to all of that, he's there. The 56-year-old Mosumola Abudu, popularly called Amo Abudu, was an HR professional and consultant. As a matter of fact, she was one of her HR company, VLA, Victorians Associate, was into HR consulting and recruitment when I was headhunted. When I was recruited to become the CEO of Abuja Enterprise Agency. Before then, she was in the ExxonMobil. She was head of HR in ExxonMobil, and then joined two other ladies to find the VLA and Associates. But later, she left and said she wants to be media. She wants to be on the screen. And now everybody knows what she is into now. So she has changed her based on her strength, based on where she sees herself. She has changed her career and her trajectory to something else. So you and me know that very many successful professionals stay in one occupation and rise to the pinnacle. There are those who join the big four, either KPMG or PwC, and they stay there and become partner, and they are very successful. There are those who join the civil service and they are very successful. There are those who join banking and they are very successful. There are those who join the manufacturing companies, either engineers or sales, and they also move the ladder. So I'm not saying that you should, change whatever you are. Just identify where your strengths are and know that that's what you have to really leverage on to move in life. For me personally, I started career in the civil service, the public service, like I told you. And when I realized that this is not where I want to stay, because of even what I was seeing at that level, at that young age, at that young level, low level, I then decided to begin to do, ICANN. Immediately, I qualified as an accountant. I moved immediately to banking. In fact, I was in the same bank with one of your BOT members, Abakar Jimo. We were colleagues at that early stage of my career at Prime Merchant Bank. So that's how I changed trajectory. I mean, my life trajectory to banking. First of all, I wanted something very creative, and I didn't want to just be pushing files. I have started seeing the corruption in the civil service even at that young age. I won't have time to tell you examples of what I was seeing, and I didn't want to be part of that. And I didn't just see what civil service is all about. I mean, just taking file, you write, and then somebody, you minute it to your senior person, minute it to one assistant director to director, and then to PS. And it comes down like that. And you keep on doing that for 35 years. And I just thought, no, this is not where I want to be. Secondly, I thought as the first child of my parents, I thought I needed to create wealth early enough and earn very well. At that time, my salary, I started with 347 naira. And my friend who was in Atwandasin was earning 2,000 naira. And I said, well, we both made 2 in Ife. Why would somebody be earning 2,000 naira per month and I will be earning 347 naira per month? Is there anything I can do? So we agreed that the first thing is to go and get something on top of, prepare me for the life of professionalism. And that's how I went into ICANN. And then immediately I qualified. I moved to merchant banking. And then the rest is what we are seeing today. So you need to focus on, to focus on what exactly you want to do and be very clear as to around what you really would like to do and have a plan around it. The second issue is now to get your technical skills to build what we call Carl Newport called career capital. You need to, when you have identified what you really want to be, you then need to acquire skills and knowledge you need to fully realize those strengths. Peter Drucker said it explicitly. This is one of the management gurus in the world, of all generations. It's late now, but anybody who studies management, there's no way you won't come across Peter Drucker. And so he's spoken so extensively on skill acquisition. And like I just shared with you, I qualified as a chartered accountant even before I joined banking, because I realized that's what I would like to do for me to be able to move on in life and I like doing it. Like I told you, I like figures, I like mathematics, I like writing, and those skill sets are very, very important in accounting, and I really want to be able to leverage on that. So you have to really then build your technical skill. We have, those of you who have read Outliers, you see that Malcolm Gladwell talk about 10,000 hour rule. For you to say you are a specialist in an area, you'll have put in 10,000 hours of knowledge acquisition. So you need to find out what you do well, where you have built up your career capital, and then pull all of that into the direction that you want to go. And Carl said, it's so good that you cannot be ignored. Skill trumps passion. Be so good that nobody can ignore you in your organization. And that's what I realized eventually happened in my own career. I was so good at my accounting finance role that I was able to really move on quickly. And part of what did that was that I keep on acquiring additional qualification even to the BSc Economics and ACA that I brought on board to my career. The other thing is to set career and professional goals. What's your career ambition? And do you have career scenario plan in case the original one that you try to do doesn't work well? And so, and the way to go around this is to invest heavily in your career capital. You have your career capital, which is whatever your strength is that you have become. you are a chartered accountant, you are a medical doctor, you are a pharmacist or an architect, whatever you are, you then begin to look at, so what do I want to do with this? Okay, so in my own case, the career, the ambition I set for myself is that if I do not become an ED at age of 40, then I will quit banking. That was my long-term plan. When I joined, when I had my second move and as an assistant manager into the bank that I eventually ended up, becoming a GM, is to say, okay, if I don't get to the C-suite, if I don't get to the executive floor by age 40, then it means I cannot become the CEO. I cannot become, a man of relevance in that organization. So, and so that was my plan at that time. And then I was then trying to see what else do I need to do to be able to get into that, to make me very feasible and get me into that role. So part of what I did is to love and embrace challenges. You make yourself available for ongoing special projects and tasks where you can deploy your passion and skills and competencies. So first of all, I was in financial control for a long time. At a time, they have to, even as an staff manager here, they have to really then move my HOD to audit, to go ahead audit, and created that opportunity for me to rise in financial control. And then they started adding some additional things to it. So what then happened is that because I like writing and I like figures, I was in the forefront of management all the time to present monthly performance report, to present asset and liability management report, to represent, to get all these things to management and be in management meetings. At that age, if you're very young, assistant manager, I didn't have so much on top of me as people I'm reporting to other than my GM. I was able to shine. But it's a very dangerous thing to do. Is you are not good, it then becomes also very feasible immediately, and then you can be just taken off the mark. So I embrace those challenges. I like writing, so it's represented in my writing. I want to say that most of the branches we try to build in the bank, I was the one that put the proposal. Anything proposal, will always be the one to head the committee. At a point in time, it's like there was no committee, ad hoc committee, special committee that they set up in the bank that I was not part of, either as secretary or as member, but most times as secretary. And that made me to have, influence around my colleagues, around, senior people, and so on and so forth. So I was really involved in tasks that involve senior employees to enhance my feasibility. So one of the challenges I want to throw to you today is to say that look for the way to be relevant, even if you're in a branch, that apart from your core job, what else are they doing in that place that requires special tasks? I mean, that's a special project, and make sure that they see you as a relevant and very valuable member of the team. And then you deploy whatever you have into it. I used to write, speeches for my MD, and it got to a stage where the MD will not collect the speech from me until the day he will be ready to deliver the speech. He got so comfortable with my writing that he would just take it from me on that day and just going to be flipping through on the way to where he was going to deliver the speech. And that was as good as God endowed me to be at that time when it comes to speech writing. Some of those times, he will collect the honorarium and give the honorarium to me and say, "Today you are the one who did the job. My own was just to go and read the speech." So I have that kind of visibility, and that really helps a lot. So and part of that is really to be very, very diligent in your work, to produce error-free or near error-free output all the time. That's the secret of being a reliable person. And that's the way to also build your own self-confidence too. I've just shown to you how my MD will collect the speech I've written for him the day that he will go to deliver the speech. That's a very high signal level of reliability. Whatever rubbish I will have written, he becomes so comfortable to it that he knows that whatever comes out of me, he can always go and read it without any issue. So so any job they give to you, don't say this job is small or is not too big. Make sure that excellence, diligence is what you put in there. And then deliver on small tasks, and you then be trusted with big tasks. Some of us are looking for big projects. We are looking for big things. We want them to promote us to big, positions. When they have tested all very small things and we're unable to do it, So that's part of what you have to do. You have to immerse yourself in your job. At the time, the bank gave me the opportunity to go and stay in anywhere to just to prepare reports, present strategies, issues and all of that. That's the thing. And so that borders on some people nowadays will be talking about work-life balance. I didn't think I have work-life balance at that time. But my wife was there for me and the children. It's not I don't create time for the children as well, but also that time was not just there enough. And so if you are someone looking you have to be in your house by 5 p.m. or 6 p.m., maybe it's not cut out for you to be, aspiring to be in that league of very small people who get to that topmost level. So that's the thing. So you have to be the best. You have to be seen as reliable. You have to be seen that you produce error-free jobs based on your strengths, where you're working. Then the other thing is to stay true to your value. And I have to say this among us Muslims. We always think people always believe that because they are Muslims, they cannot do this, do that in organization. Nobody is going to ask you to belong to things you don't belong to. You are not supposed to be there. So clubbing, joining, forums that do not add value to you as Muslims. Nobody will be asking you to do that if they know that you are good and you are indispensable for your role. So don't be apologetic about being a Muslim or being a practicing Muslim. I was never one, and I'm never one. I'm not apologetic. Everybody knows I'm a Muslim. In fact, let me give you another example of what normally happens. When we go for retreat or sessions that include maybe staying the weekend, some of these guys will come, you see Saturdays, Friday night, Saturday night, you see girls coming to them, they go and bring girls and all of that. But they know that Tunde Kokola will not be part of that. Or you see them having drinks and all of that. They know that I will not be part of that. So, but there was a day my MD was cracking a very, very serious joke. I think we were just trying to close at around 2 or 3 a.m. At a retreat for the following day. And he said that, well, all of you know that you people will go and you drink now. You won't wake up at 8, 9 when we are supposed to come here. But I know that if all of you lost your mind, I know that Tunde will be there. He's not going to, he will remain who he is. So that's the kind of thing that the kind of disposition that the MD and my colleagues have for me as a Muslim. So I didn't need to be apologetic, but I was very active in social and special events organized by the company. Don't be a social recluse. Some people will say, I don't want to be part of that. I don't want, no. Nobody asking you to club or to do, but when they do social events, be there. But that doesn't mean you are going to be drinking with them or going to be humanizing with them. You are going to be doing all manner of negative things with them. They play football. I was looking for whether I could get, a photograph of when we were playing football. I couldn't get it. Hello? Hello? So stay true to your value. The mere fact that you are a Muslim doesn't mean you should not follow that. Then have mentors and coaches. So most of us, if you don't have people we look up to, who can handhold us, who can speak on our behalf, who can lead us, who can show us, who can advise us, even open us to opportunities, we are gone. And a lot of Muslims don't have this. And I think I want you to embrace this today. And mentors and coaches doesn't necessarily mean you look for individual person you'll be having physical, relationship with. It can even be reading books, reading autobiography or biographies of people. And then you just want to adopt the way they have gone. Part of it is what we are doing today. I'm sure one or two of what I have said today will be useful to you. And so you listen to people, you read about them, and that helps. But beyond that, also in organizations, it's also good for you to have mentors at the topmost level who you can share your professional, life with, and can see the value you add, can see the direction that you can go, and can help you to get there. Sometimes in an organization, it may be that you are not really very good, or you are not enjoying the department you are, and you want to cross to another department. Sometimes if you are in a department, your ability to rise may be very limited. For instance, if you are in operations in banking, your ability to really rise is very limiting because they just see you as a backroom person just doing routine things. Whereas other people in treasury, in marketing, you see them moving quickly because they can see what they can do. They can really put that down, and people can see it. But if you have mentors, they can help you to navigate some of those things in your workplace. Now, networks and networking is very important. You keep a crop of fair, credible, serious-minded friends and professional colleagues. I want to say that even if what you want to do is to keep those professional, you want to be intimate in Muslim associations, it will also help you because, like Motiyat said, even Muslims are in various places. They are in various in endeavors. And if that's what you keep, but if you don't belong to anywhere, then it's a serious problem who you can reach, how many people you can reach, how many steps you have to take to reach whatever you want to reach, or whoever you want to reach can really be very, very limiting for you. So belong to professionals. So I belong to ICANN. I was chairman of the largest district, Lagos and district, between 2007, 2009. All those things don't come cheaply. I joined them since 1996 or so. So I was on the line for almost 12 years before I emerged as the chairman. I contested council election once and lost. I practice football. I'm not a footballer, but I joined when the company does all the social outings. I have to be part of it. So join community service, adopt social impact projects if you have that opportunity. And this will open you up to a lot of other people, a lot of other opportunities, a lot of other very interesting, either senior people or colleagues that can help you when you need them. And then, of course, sharpen the saw. Always invest in your personal development. Okay, so I came to banking with BSc ACA. Then 2 years later, I went back to Unilag to do masters in banking and finance. And for 7 years, I was not doing anything. And I look at myself, how come today you are here since 2003 when you have your MBA? You have not added anything to yourself because of the work. No, you have to do something. So I went back and did my master's in economics in 2000. And then in 2013 or 2014, I decided to enroll for a PhD outside the country. And this is different from all other, development, courses, Harvard, Wharton, and all of those places that Mutiyat had mentioned in my citation. So you have to keep on reading. You have to read widely, and not just about professional books, things that can really influence you positively, that can energize you, that can motivate you. As we speak today, my job is in data. I run a credit bureau, so it's in data. In October last year, I had to take an 8-week program at Cambridge on analytics, just to make sure, because that's the next phase of our growth, just to make sure that I'm well prepared for that. So please, this is part of the things you have to do. Whenever I have a holiday in those days, I always look for a program during the holiday to go and run a course for myself. Mutiyat mentioned Leadership for Environment and Development. I spent about $7,000 to do that course at that time, leading me in 2 years, taking me to Senegal, India, and Mexico, just to have that leadership program. So I invested in myself other than what the organization is doing for me or investing in me to build my capacity. So you have to do that because, that is what you have as professionals, is your relevance all the time. You become so outdated easily, especially nowadays. Things are, if you have a degree, within 5 years, that degree has become useless unless you update yourself in that particular field because of the way, what you call creative disruption that is happening on in the world around now. So you have to keep on sharpening the saw. And then maybe finally is to focus on yourself. Now, a lot of people keep on comparing themselves. So I left IFE in 1980 something. So where are my colleagues now? What's my business with that? My business is not to compare myself with others, is to compare myself with who I was yesterday, with who I am today, with where I want to be tomorrow. So how do I get better all the time is what you have to be looking on. So you rely on your own self-reflection to determine how best you can apply your unique gifts and talents. So like I said here, popular quote, our business in life is not to get ahead of others, but to get ahead of ourselves, to break our own records, to outstrip our yesterday by our today. That's the thing. So how do I move to the next level? How do I get better? How do I become more influencer person? How do I get to the, so how do I get promotion? There are things that you have to look at yourself and see how you do well for yourself. And finally, work very hard and pray. Now, we cannot underestimate the power of prayers in all that we do. But you really have to work very hard. If you come to my office, in my office, this thing I put by my right side is what you have on my desk. That's the only thing that's on my desk. And it has only 2 verses of the Quran. The first one relates to Surah Al-Najm, verse 53, 39 to 40. Every morning when I come in, this is what I do. That man shall have nothing but what he strives for. That the fruit of his striving will soon come to light. Then will he be rewarded with a reward complete. That's my philosophy. And I brought that from the Quran. Whenever I'm downcast on a project or whenever I'm procrastinating, I just tell myself, Quran 53, 39 to 41. Today, you won't have anything unless you strive for it too. But Allah has promised me that if I strive for it, that He will reward me with whatever, I mean, with the level of my striving for it. So this can be spiritual, but I also have now been able to apply it to my day-to-day life asking, because I believe that for tasfir of these particular phases of the Quran, it may be striving for the hereafter is the main objective according to main tasfir. But I've interpreted it to mean that even in this world, I have to strive for whatever I'm trying to get. And I have that on my table every morning, so that whenever I'm sluggish about anything, I say, okay, if you don't do this thing, you won't get this result that you're looking for. You better behave yourself. I talk to myself like that, and then I get that. When I was doing my PhD, for 2 years, I abandoned it. Then I came around it. So if you go into my PhD, one of the areas you see in our acknowledgement pages to thank, when I was thanking Allah, that the inspiration I got from these passages of the Quran really helped me, because that's when you have strive, then the opportunity will come. Then you prepare to seize the opportunity, and then you run with it. And finally, when you have done all that, then you put your trust in Allah. He is the bestower of all blessings and favor, and disposer of all affairs. So you have there Surah Azab 33 verse 3. It says, and put thy trust in Allah, and enough is Allah as a disposer of affairs. So today your own is to do your best, is to put in the best you can, but you have to strive first of all. Then Allah has said He will reward me with the effort of striving that I've even made attempt, and then I will be rewarded, and the reward will be complete. He will make it whole for me. And then finally, I put my trust in you, oh Allah, that you bestow all blessings to human beings. People strive and they don't get blessings. People do not do much and Allah bless them. But in this case, I'm trying to go and strive. I will do all my best. Then I will call on you to bestow your favor on me and make me to get whatever I want. So these are just the tips that I want to share with you this morning. I read a lot, like I told you, and I'm recommending some of these books. Some of them are old books, but they are as relevant today as they have been since they were written. 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson, Jack Welch. We all know he was the most admired CEO of GE. Then this one was a football coach. American football coach, Vince Lombardi, on leadership, what it takes to number one. This How to Get to the Top is good. And then Carl Newport was the one who talked so good they can't ignore you, where skill trump passion in the quest for work you love. So that even if you don't have that passion, it's not passion that drives, it's your trying to get at something, trying to have a skill, and then take everything, invest heavily to acquire that skill, and then nobody will be able to ignore you when it comes to looking for that skill. People who have that skill, and then you can then get up there. So my brothers and sisters in Islam, every organization, they are looking for diversity. They are not looking for homogeneity. You have to play on your strength. so that you can have a place in the executive floor. Be natural. Don't try to be artificial. Be yourself. And then, of course, put everything in prayer. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to achieve our, what He has created us to have purpose in this world, and also bless us to be able to attain the hereafter. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Jazakumullah khairan. That was, of course, that was a school. That was a school of a session. Jazakumullah khairan. Thank you so much for your time, sir, and for all the amazing recommendations and insights that you have given us today. We really appreciate it. The presentation was awesome. Not that we expected anything less. Thank you so much. So we move quickly to the question and answer session. I would have Samsudeen take over the question and answer session. So if you have any question, this is the time to drop it. If you've dropped your questions, we will take them now. We have 15 minutes to do this before the next session. Samsudeen, you have the floor.
All right, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So I don't know, do we take the questions one after the other, or we just take all the questions?
I think you should take them in batches, maybe 3, 4 at a go, and then you answer that and then move on to the next batch.
All right, so the first question we have here says from Rakib Olalikon, yeah? He says, how can we develop our public speaking and communication skills? So he also went further to say that how can we start a conversation or network with a VIP or professional in a formal event? So I guess he's talking about the elevator pitch. So how do you pitch very fast? Then lastly, he says, I would be glad to know if we can actually benefit from a copy of this wonderful presentation.
Okay, you want me to answer that?
For a copy
Yes.
of the presentation, the presentation is streaming live on YouTube. Whatever you miss is on YouTube. So please take note, it's right there on the screen. We're streaming live on YouTube. So if you miss anything, it is on YouTube. You can go there to screenshot the slides and everything. Please, I know that this question will come up throughout the day. The answer will remain the same. Slides, so recording, everything, you will get it on YouTube. We're not sending slides to anyone. If there's any points that you want to keep for yourself, screenshot it. Everyone literally can do that on their phone, on their laptop. So please note that. Please go ahead with the other question.
All right, so I think for public speaking, there are quite a lot of people that train people how to do public speaking. So you can look for that. There are schools or outfits that do that a lot. In fact, there are even an association that is a Guild of Orators that also, so maybe you should just Google Guild of Orators, maybe that can give you some level of how to get into them. Conversation in a top event with high-level people. So this is where you have to just summon courage. A lot of people, when they get to an event, they are looking for people who look like them, people they have known before, and then they get stuck to those people. Whereas when you get to events like that, you should try to see, before I leave this event, I should have at least 1 or 2 or 3 contacts, 2 or 3 additional people I can relate with after I left. So for top level people also, I always advise people to get to event early enough, because most top events always start with like a cocktail where people just spend 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes, moving around over drinks or over beverages or over small things to eat. And at that time, those top level people normally don't have their security detail around them so much. You walk up across to anybody, they say, "Good evening, Dr. Kukola. I've been following you, and I'm glad I'm able to see you today. My name is so this is what I do," and so on. And that person will also ask you questions, and then want to know. You can then drop whatever you want to drop. But most times you don't drop things that would be embarrassing. maybe just create opportunity for you to be able to have access to the person later will be the first thing, the kind of thing you should be doing at that kind of event. But if you don't come early enough and an event has started, then you have very little chance to be able to stop to talk to those people because everybody is seated, and most of them immediately they finish, they head straight to their vehicles and disappear. So that would be my advice. Thank you.
All right. So the next question we have here says, how can, I think he says, okay, how can we benefit from your business from Dr. Tunde Popola's organization, Credit Bureau? I guess it's speaking about the business opportunities in your organization.
Okay. So I run a credit bureau, and a credit bureau is just a data center of a repository of all borrowers in Nigeria. People that organization that can benefit, we do B2B. So if you are a lending institution or you are an HR institution or you sell on credit, you can always join the organization and check the credit worthiness or and profile of people or organization you want to do business with. Those are the people that have very serious opportunity to benefit from CRC Credit Bureau. There's nobody, any serious lender in Nigeria that lends without going through the database of CRC to know the behavior, the past behavior of those that are new applicants to them. A lot of HR companies also now come to the site to look at the background of people when it comes to loans and financial matters and default. So if you are a lending institution, or if you sell on credit, let's say you are a school or you are a fast-moving conglomerate and then you sell on credit, you always can also join and check before you even put anybody to buy on credit from you. It's good for you to be able to know whether that person or that institution have credibility in repaying loans. So that's what we do. And then when it comes to employment, we always look for people that are software developers and statisticians. So if you are into AI or you're into data analytics or you are a software developer, when you Google CRC Credit Bureau, you see the HR part where you can, or careers, you can always drop your CV there. If we need you, we can then always contact you.
All right, so thank you very much, sir. So the next question is from Kafilat Sanusi. She says, how do I get a mentor?
Okay, so getting a mentor is interesting. You have to look for what exactly do you want, who will have those characteristics, and you can approach the person directly, or you get somebody who knows somebody. I know we are going to be talking about networking later in the day. And if you can just be patient, I guess issues around this will come up at that session. But for me, one of the things that slow people down is not having somebody up there that can show them the way and also navigates for them occasionally, or even advise them on the best thing to do. So getting a mentor may be, even if you're in an organization, for instance, you can look at somebody who has very good, you so respect in the organization and approach, or in your industry, not necessarily in your own organization, and find a way to approach that person and say, I want you to be my mentor. I do quite a lot in that regard for young people. I also do it for Lagos Business School. I do it for Faith Foundation, because sometimes when you join some of these organizations, they can then help you to also do for people who can help you.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. So the next one here is from Tijani Kazim, and he's saying, how can one get contact of MMC to always get notification? So we have groups on WhatsApp, so you can put your contacts after now, so we can get back to you, or you just send the link before the end of today's session, so you can join in to any of our groups. So he is also saying that I would like to be a mentor under the guest speaker, Dr. Tunde Popola. How can I achieve this?
Okay, so get in touch with the management of MMC, and they will get they will get across to me. Alternatively, as we are speaking, my email and LinkedIn is on this page. So send a mail if we can talk. I cannot assure you that because I'm very busy, extremely very busy, that we can profile ourselves and see whether we can really flow together.
Okay. So Kafilat Sanusi is saying that this is a mind-blowing presentation. I feel the presenter is looking to, or is, talking to me. That's what you want to say. Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen, I'm here. Somebody says a good presentation. It was a good outing. Then, okay. So Balogun Kudus is saying, I don't like reading long novels. I tried severally, but to no avail. Thus, what I currently do is to take courses on what I wish to know and read short articles from Harvard Business Review. And it likes. And on track doing that, or am I on track doing that, or am I missing a lot for not reading the long novels?
I don't know. I think now there are even, most of the books are in audio form, which you can be listening to if you don't want to read them. And then you can continue. You know what happens is that a lot of time it's really difficult to finish reading a lot of books, especially I hope a person like me read multiple books at any point in time. I read 2-3 books at any point in time, and I don't end up finishing most of them. I look at the topics, I read the summary, I just go to certain topics and I pick them. And that's probably what you can do. There are places where they also can teach you how to read fast, you know, how to really read very fast and get substance out of what you are reading. And you probably can look for that as well. But yeah, HBS, Harvard Business, you know, articles they are not really bad. They are extremely very top level. And sometimes you have to be able to, you know, domesticate them for your own experience, the Nigerian experience, as the case may be. Books give details and give examples, and that's why some of us like reading books, especially biographies, who have gone through that thing, what they have done with their life, what happened to them, what were the failures, and how did they overcome it? What were the victories? How did they admire those things? So that's why it's improved. Like I said, it doesn't matter if you cannot finish reading, just take a book. There will always be a summary place. There will be some interesting topics, and then go into another one.
Okay, sir, thank you very much for that. Then Rashidat Omowole is saying, you said something about passion not being the main drive. I didn't get that aspect. Kindly make it clearer, sir.
Okay, so what I've seen with young people is that passion, and I'll start with my children actually. The passion is also a lot of passion that people talk about here. You see that they are like for NGO kind of thing. You know, they want to do this and that and that and that. So when we talk about passion, we're talking about things you really would like to do. And I'm saying that that's a nice thing to have. It's also a nice thing to do. But you can see that a lot of people at young age don't even know where their passion is. They don't even know what they're interested in. People that join KPMG or PwC or EY are just looking for top level organizations to work, and not necessarily as a sort. At that time, maybe a lot of them don't even have passion. Some already know what they want to do, so that's why they will read engineering or pharmacy and still find themselves in audit or assurance or in banking, like I gave example. So, but when we talk about passion, you're talking about things that you like to do. And I'm saying that in a lot of times, especially in our environment in Nigeria, that may not even be the thing. What is there is invest heavily in an area. If what you invest heavily in, and I mean investment in acquisition of skill, if you want to invest in is, okay, what then become your job, that's fine. People find themselves in accountancy, like I said, because they just want to be in that organization, maybe because they make a first class or 2-1. And they eventually become addicted to it. And because they have become so good in it, it then becomes, whether you then call it their passion or something, later in life, they can now begin to look at, okay, look at what Abudu has done. Her interest has been HR. But now she has said that she wants to be visible. She wants to be on tube. She wants to be on screen. And then went for, if you like, you can call that her passion. And not that HR is not her passion. So that's what I mean by passion, not the main thing. Capital, career capital is really what can get you into the highest level. But also within you will realize that in my presentation, I also say that even within the organization, there are things that you like to do that then becomes what you bring to the organization apart from your core jobs. I told you, for instance, I like writing. And my job is not to come and be writing for my bank. But at the end of the day, I ended up being secretary to virtually all committees in the bank. You know, I ended up writing for my MD for all his speeches, because that I've been doing since I was in the university. So, and I'm enjoying it. But I didn't take that as my career. You know, my career was basically finance and accounting. And the reason for me was very simple. I've given you those reasons. So I hope that helps to clarify.
Ma, lights there now. Lights there.
Okay, Jazakumullah khairan. Thank you so much for that. Sister Fatima, thank God for your light. Please remember to mute yourself. Everyone, that goes for everyone. If you're not speaking, please remember to mute yourself. Samsudin, are you still there? Okay, I think that he's gone. Network has thrown him out or something. Jazakumullah khairan, Dr. Bukula, for your time. I know that you're going to be here all day, so when the other questions pop up, we will have them written down and probably maybe share them during the panel session, inshallah. Thank you so much for your time. May Allah reward you abundantly, sir.
Thanks for everyone that has listened to me this morning. I hope you have taken away one or two things.
Yes,
the essence of this kind of conversation is not for you to take hundreds, but maybe some you are already doing before, some you just feel, okay, let me practice one or two things. If you're just taking one thing away, I think that would be very useful, because for me as a Muslim, we are just too minute in the corporate space. And we see this everywhere. In banking, when I was in banking, you couldn't even wear a hijab. We have to thank Sister Mo, Auntie Mo, for pioneering that for us. Just to wear cap at that time. If you wear cap, nobody will call you for interview. I achieved that in my bank at that time. I have to go and meet my MD who was not ready. And I said, okay, in the north, we have branches we branch in Kano. So at the end of the day, and this lady was very good. And my MD agreed for the first time that we should recruit somebody who done a cap as a Muslim. And she told me clearly, don't bring him to head office, take her to Kano. I don't want anybody to. That's the situation at our own time. Of course, I didn't take her to Kano. I was heading the group, the bank's operation. I took her to Papa Brown. I told her, don't come to head office, just be working, doing your work in that place. So because she's married and her husband is in Lagos, and that's how she navigates. As I speak today, the sister is currently even in my office, in my CLC. I've still employed him in my office. She's very good. So that's the thing. The situation we find ourselves has been liberalized. You know, nobody is stopping you from wearing a cap or dressing modestly as a Muslim now, unlike in those days when you could not do that. So let's go out there and champion, you know, and be in the forefront. If you are not in corporate world, then we won't be able to change things the way they should be. If Antimo was not in GT, maybe there's no way they will have allowed Muslims to be wearing cap in GT Bank. You know, so but you have to get there first. You have to be in the executive room where they are taking those decisions and say, oh, this thing doesn't affect the brain of anybody. In fact, it covers their dignity. And then they listen to you and approve. And that's the only way. But if you are not there and we are running away from being there, or we are not even equipping ourselves to be able to be there at the point in time, then it becomes difficult for us to have impact in life. So thank you so much.
Mashallah, mashallah. I was going to say that what I took away is to be unapologetically Muslim, and you definitely have cemented all the points for me. If we are not there, if we are refusing to enter the rooms, then who will make decisions like ordinarily letting somebody wear a cap for us? I went with when I was at the Enterprise Development Center of the Pan Atlantic University. I was the only Muslim wearing, of course, I was the only person who that was recognized as a Muslim. Apparently we were two, but the other person refused to be recognized as Muslim for whatever reasons that she has. I think that a lot of times the prejudice that is pushed at us must be one of those reasons. And the only person who can change it, or the only people who can change it, is us by ourselves. Mala is the task force. We will move on to the next session now with Mr. Golam Ishaq. And I have the honor of asking Khalilat to read his citation so that we may begin. Hey, Khalila, how are you? Khalilat, by the way, is the person responsible for majority of the posters that you see on the WhatsApp group on our Instagram, on our Twitter, anywhere you find those motivational posters or daily reminders that we send, they are mostly done, or they were mostly done by Khalila. May Allah bless her for us. And at no cost, we don't pay anybody on our team. They all do it lillah. May Allah bless them, bless them. Please go on.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. My name is Khalila Ajibala, and I would just like to thank Sister Mutiat for the introduction. And without further ado, I would like to introduce the next speaker, who is Mr. Odumuyiwa Gbolahon Ishaq. Mr. Gbolahon has a professional career spanning over 15 years and has worked in different capacities in the areas of advisory, consulting, product discovery, and operations. He is a graduate of the Obafemi Awolowo University, where he studied computer engineering, and he has a postgraduate diploma in industrial internet from the African Leadership University and GE. At the early stage of his career at YS Consulting, he worked with clientele spanning different verticals from banking and finance, telecommunication, hospitality to manufacturing, helping them develop their businesses, solve their business challenges, and grow their businesses. One of his primary responsibilities at VBN is managing the order of fulfillment process. Hence, he is involved in virtually all stages of delivering customer solutions, from sales all the way to handing over to the customer service operations team. He is also responsible for managing the operational processes of the department, designing new processes as required, and ensuring that all agreed upon processes are followed. He led the NMS team within Vodacom and was responsible for building its in-house private cloud on VMware to aid the rapid deployment of NMS applications and allowing experimentation with open source monitoring tools. Within VBN, he has also worked in an advisory position to the former CEO on new disruptive products and digital transformation within the business. He now works in the venturing and innovation space, researching for the next big thing he can invest in or help building. He sees himself as a technical generalist, being able to combine technical knowledge within multiple domains. He is an avid reader. When not at work, he can be found immersed in technical blogs, history books, and politics. You're welcome, Mr. Gbolahon.
Thank you very much. Can you all hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
I think my screen sharing is disabled. I'd like to share, I have a slide to present, so I'd like to share the screen.
Mr. Shoaib, please, could you enable his screen sharing?
Okay, so just before we start, I wished I was the first person to present before Dr. Pokwala. Now I have very big shoes to fill after seeing his presentation. So, but I'll still, as I can see, also it's also my senior from Obafemi Awolowo University when it was University of Ife. So I will try my best to best him. That's what I would say. Okay, so let me try and see if I can share it. Okay, now I can share the screen. So I'll be sharing the screen now. Can you see my screen? Can you all see my screen?
Yes, sir. I can.
Okay. Okay. So let's start. Everyone can see. So everyone can see. So, like Sister Kalila said, my name is Bola Odumoyo Ishaq. I'm mostly called known as Bola outside, except among my Muslim friends who call me Ishaq now. So, and the topic before me here is to walk people through growing a startup in tough environments. And so I'll start by, so let me start by saying that there's really nothing new I'm about to say here. Most of the information here are available on the internet. But what I want to help us with is the context behind all of this information. Sister Olagoke mentioned about mindset. We are in an age of information deluge. A lot of information. You go to the internet, you see loads and loads of information. But so information is not the lack of the problem we're facing right now is not a lack of information because we have a lot of it. It's how to be able to synthesize this information, how to be able to understand and how to be able to put things into perspective, how to have mental models and frameworks to be able to look at this information to be able to make benefit for us. So there's nothing. If you're looking for information on rocket science, I'm sure if you search on the internet, you'll see books talking about it. You see people that are practitioners that are saying one thing or the other. But how can we make use of it? And basically, that is what I'm here to be able to do, to guide us through a startup process, because startups are basically. So let me start by the definition of startups. Startups are companies that people come together to be able to solve a particular problem. They're a bit different from normal businesses because in a startup, you're basically trying to solve a problem that hasn't been solved before, or you're trying to solve a problem that has been solved before in another way, such that you would like to grow faster, you would like to probably raise money faster, or be able to do something that someone hasn't done before. It could be, let's take for example Jumia Food. Jumia Food, basically what it does is to be able to link food sellers and food buyers together using an app. But what the business that they are in, like the category that they are in, are not new categories. It's not like a new category, basically because we've always had food buyers, we always had food sellers. But the only difference now is that someone is trying to link them with a mobile app to be able to, to be able to solve a problem of that we call in the startup world discoverability. Discoverability because you could be somewhere in probably Lekki, and you are interested in a food that someone is cooking in VI. There's no way, if there wasn't a mobile phone, if there wasn't a mobile app, that you'll be able to be able to know what the person is cooking at the moment, if it's ready, and how much the person will be selling to you, and how much it will cost the person to be able to deliver it to you. So basically, a startup like Jumia Food is trying to solve that problem. So startups, really, what startups are is, or when they call a business a startup, is that they're trying to solve a category of business that could be non-existent before, or they're trying to solve an existing business, a problem in an existing business in a different manner. So, like every startup or any business, one would require funding. It's a risky venture because you'll be leaving known for unknown. Probably are leaving a paid job to be able to go into a startup, or you're leaving something probably that you're doing, or you're even risking some form of capital that you've had. Do you understand? You're taking your money and you're putting in a startup to be able to run a particular business. So startups are very risky ventures. What I've tried to do, in the next slide, what I'm trying to do here is to be able to depict how a startup is in terms of risk and payoff. If you followed the news, you would hear a lot of people are talking about startups, this, startup that. Everyone is like, the in business is right now is startups. And the reason why is because of the payoff. The payoffs are huge. And the reason why the payoffs are also huge is because the risks are huge. The risk to failure, because you're essentially doing a new thing, or you're doing an existing thing faster than it's been done before, or bigger than it's been done before. So what I've done is to create like a matrix to be able to say, okay, looking at risk and payoff. When I say payoff, I'm talking about returns in terms of monetary value, in terms of profit, revenue, or valuation. And if you look at this matrix, you'll find out that in the high risk, high payoff zone, that's where you find startups. For small businesses, you find them in the high payoff. You can find them in the high payoff, low risk, and you can also find them in the low payoff, low risk zones, which is at the bottom of this matrix here. It's very essential that because we confuse, people typically confuse, or people have a confusion. What's the difference between a startup? I'm selling shoes online. Am I a startup? I am selling, am I a small business? I want to be selling pepper. Am I a startup? Am I a small business? And I tried in the slide before, I tried to paint the framework on the understanding of the mental model to be able to understand what a startup is. A startup basically is someone doing a business or rendering a service or giving a value in a way that has never been done before, one, or doing doing something that nobody has ever thought of before. So, for example, when Elon Musk said he wanted to send rockets to space, space had always been an area dominated by the government, and he wanted to do it in a way. He wanted to do it, and everyone felt that, look, you're crazy. Only governments have the money to be able to do this, and so it was difficult for him at the initial stage to even get people that would be interested in putting their money, but not because he was coming from a very rich background. Elon Musk was part of the people who started PayPal, and he's part of the people who are called like the PayPal gang. Quite a number of them, they made a lot of money from PayPal, and from PayPal they now started going into other businesses. So he had a lot of money from PayPal that he could throw around to be able to do that business. But aside from doing a business that was already in existence, because rockets were already going to space, but governments were the ones firing rockets to space. He, as a private person, wanted to be the first person to fire a rocket into space. He was also doing something else. He was bringing an approach into the business that nobody had ever thought before, and that is using reusable rockets. Reusable rockets in the sense that you fire the rocket into space, it goes to space, it drops a payload, and it comes back to Earth and lands on its own. That was like a new thing that nobody had thought of before, no one had done before. So it was going into an existing business, but it was bringing a new approach to it. And the new approach, he knew if he were to succeed in the new approach, the payoff would be very, very high. As we go on further, I have a slide that talks about risk, and I'll come back to this story on Elon Musk to be able to talk about risk and and how we should assess startup risks. But he went into it. No one believed in him. The U.S. government did not, even in the U.S. Most people thought he was crazy. He wouldn't succeed. He had to go all the way to Russia to buy used rockets. But eventually now he's succeeding and is essentially leading in a category of business that he has created on his own. All of these things I'm saying will come in relevant in subsequent slides when we talk about the problems businesses face and tough environment. So on this matrix, you would essentially place Elon Musk's risk and payoff in this high, in the top quadrant on the right, startup zone, because the risk was high, but the payoff was also very high. You understand? But for a small business, so say let's say someone like someone opening a store in Nigeria now. You want to open a retail store in your neighborhood. We'll put you in the top bottom corner here. You're a small business. You are you're a small business, and you are essentially just opening to make, you're making the profit you're making is not a lot. And what you're doing is just what everybody is doing. Maybe everybody, maybe in the next street, there's someone also selling what you're selling. In the next street, as in 2 streets after, so you're not the only person saying, so you're not doing something that is essentially new. You know all of the factors, but you also would face risk. It's also a very risky venture. Something can happen that you didn't know would happen. You can have a fire burn down your store. You can have all of those kind of things, but essentially you will not be classed a startup. Now, there's the bottom right also. The bottom right is probably someone who's also in a small business, but he wants to start, he's starting and he says, I want to be the biggest reseller of flour mill products or Dangote products in this area. And because of that, it puts in a whole lot of money and he gets a very massive shop. The payoff is also high for him because he's dealing in volumes, and the risk is low because he's selling a product that is known. But the risk is low, but there's still risk. Now, the top left is where nobody really wants to be. People that usually in their area are mostly research work. For example, now people talking about quantum computing. Now, quantum computing is most of us will have read it online. People are talking about, oh, that's the next phase of computing. That's the next phase of this. In this place, at the moment now, there's no use for those products, and the payoff is low, and the risk is also high because you're in the bleeding edge of science. What that means is that you can do research all your life and still not make a big breakthrough. So basically is in the realm of government, where government puts in money, or very large corporations who have like 100-year plans and like, okay, in 100 years time, this is where we want to be. They put in down money, but and they invest in those areas that people continue to, to toil and, to work on those places. But for a startup, you don't want to be in that kind of sector. So you don't want to be in a sector where there's no growth in it and the risk is high, because there's no payoff for you. In the end, you end up losing all your money, you end up wasting your time. So you don't want to be, as a startup, you want to be in a place with very high risk and high payoff, or you want to come to a small business zone where you can, this zone here, where you can have high payoff but low risk, or you come here where you have both low risk and high payoff. Now, the funny thing about it is that people do move. People move from small business. You can move from small business zone from the bottom left side of the matrix to the bottom right side. Then you also move up. People like Walmart. When Walmart started, they were essentially startups at that time. They were building massive stores, different from the pop and mom stores that people used to know in the US. And eventually it became like a small business. Everybody became used to having stores around. But initially when they started, they were like startups. They were going into risky ventures. They were trying a model that people had not seen before. But the payoffs were also high. Then they moved down, and sometimes you can move down, they move, and it can be, and that's where the disruption comes in. You could be in the top right, then you'll be forced down. As business continues to go and things become business as usual, then you can be forced to this side, which is the bottom left of the screen, where what you're just doing is low risk, low payoff. You understand? And people do start from the low risk, low payoff, move to the bottom right, and they also move up to startup, because when they now start, so let me try this, let me add new information. As we continue the conversation, I would give examples of people who moved either way, moved from startup down to small business zone, also or small SME zones, or move from SME zone up to startup zones. At the bottom, this bottom right, also there could also be large companies. So, for example, let's take our banks, for example, like a GT Bank. A GT Bank can essentially be in this bottom high payoff, low risk. The model is known. As we speak today, everybody, as in what if you start a traditional bank, is a known model. Everyone knows what you need to do: build branches, recruit people, collect money, loan out money. It's simple as ABC. But when GTB started, they started with a new approach to banking. They came in with new approaches. I could remember at that time when GTB had little branches. They started pushing digital channels. They were the first to allow things like having a call, from probably entering a bank and being able to make a call, things people take for granted now. At that time, most banks did not have that. They were innovating and using that to attract the younger generation until they got as big as they are right now. And now they've moved down to almost business as usual. So they have high payoff and low risk. But the new fintech startups that we have now, like Flutterwave, Paystack, OP, all of them, they are in this zone because they are coming in essentially with a new model, a new approach. They are looking for rapid growth and they are looking for a lot of customers. And because they are built over certain disruptive technologies like mobile phones, internet, and things like that, it makes it easy for them to reach a lot of people. Now, we spoke about startup operations. One of the things, one of the myths that we hear about is that, or people say about Nigeria is that Nigeria is a tough environment. We all know it's difficult for businesses to survive. In Nigeria, we all know that. But startup failure is high in Nigeria, but it's not only in Nigeria. Everywhere in the world, startup failure is high. The stats I have here is for the US, where 90% of the startups fail. Then out of that 90% of the startups that fail, only 50% of them make it up to their second year or make it to their fifth year. 33% of them make it only to the 10th year. And only 40% of the 33% turn to profit. With stats like this, it becomes clear that startup failure or difficulties or challenges or risk in business is just normal. If there was no risk in business, and everyone would be in it. If there was no risk in business, there won't be any incentive for anybody to start a business because what that would mean is that anybody can enter it. Because one of the reasons why people enter into business is also because of the entry barrier. They go into business and say, oh, it's difficult for other people to come and join me here so I can take all of the value, because almost everyone likes a monopoly. Everyone wants to be able to eat up all the value in a business. So businesses, in all environments, in all climes, there's risks to business. Now, in Nigeria, because of lack of stats, the only stat I could find was a business stat that says that the rate of startup failure is about 61%, which would mean that it is lower than the US. But I definitely know that we don't, our stats are not that accurate. So I would want us, as we know, we go into business as startup founders or people who are thinking about, wanting to start a startup, to imagine that your risks will be as high as 98%, 97%, because you're essentially trying something. If you're a startup, you're essentially trying something that no one has tried before. We are pushing a model that you're pushing a model in business that no one has considered before. So obviously your risk will be high. The same way your payoff. The higher risks, the higher payoff. And that's basically what startup is about. And one of the things that when we look at it, I was able to on this side. You look at what are the problems that startups have. Why do startups really fail? One of the problems is not having the right product, lack of product market fit. We'll talk about that later. I have a slide to talk about that. Or running out of cash. Cash is the lifeblood of every business, and that's why we have companies like Dr. Pokwala's Credit Bureau to be able to tell you, oh, is this person someone you can do business with, because you don't want to be doing business with someone or rendering service to someone that has a history of not paying back. You understand? That's what it's all like. Mr. Tony Kukwala's business will be able to tell you that, oh, this person, don't do business with him, he will never pay you back. You understand? And essentially, those are like the issues startups face in Nigeria. And even in Nigeria, aside from all of these general problems, there's still the culture. There's a culture of people not wanting to pay back things in Nigeria. There's a culture of people not valuing services that people offer. So, and when they don't value, you tend not to pay. So these are the risks. These are like the high level risks that startup face. And it's not, the takeaway from this side that, look, risks in business is not peculiar to Nigeria. Nigeria has its own inherent risk, probably infrastructural risk, political stability, even the attitude of the average Nigerian not wanting to pay for services and the rest. But risks in businesses or startup failure is not peculiar to Nigeria. But you can, it's not peculiar to Nigeria. Nigeria has its own peculiarities, but generally it's not peculiar to Nigeria. Anywhere you go, even if you leave Nigeria and go to Canada for a startup, there are some risks that are inherent to them that probably Nigeria will not have. So, for example, in those environments, there's high risk of disruption. So you have an idea and you're working on it. As you're working on it, probably someone else in university is inventing something to, to knock you off totally. Take, for example, Nokia. As at 6, 7, 8 years ago, or BlackBerry, if you did not have a BlackBerry phone, you would as if you were outdated. You were not. They were the in things now. Then all of a sudden, Google, Apple came with their iOS and smartphones, and they knocked them. Now Apple have been knocked off the smartphone business totally in such a way that they were essentially just wiped off the map when it comes to smartphones and apps and all of those other things. And those people came and they created a huge economy out of it. Made a lot of money. And essentially, that's the kind of risk you face if you were doing a business in a place like the US, because a lot of people are innovating and they are moving very fast. Unlike in Nigeria, where people may not move, they are also innovating, but may not move as fast as that. The next slide is the opportunities and promises. And the reason why I put this slide there is to be able to encourage, because the reason why I put this slide there is to be able to encourage people to actually consider starting up in Nigeria. I worked in a corporate organization where at a point in the last 2 or 3 years, almost every month someone would leave saying it's going to Canada. This is not a pitch to say not to go to all of those places. This is basically a pitch to say, look, there is still promise and opportunities in Nigeria, no matter how hard it is, no matter how bleak it looks, there's still opportunity as long as Nigeria as a country exists. And we've gone through, someone like Dr. Tunde Popola will be able to tell you, because they are older, we've gone through bleaker periods where things were more difficult under the military rule during the Abacha years, and still we got here. And those people who put a stake in the ground then, who invested in Nigeria then, are reaping it now. You understand? So as long as Nigeria continues to exist, in 2050, Nigeria's population size will be 400 million now. Currently, now GDP is about $397 billion, and they are projecting that by in 2050 will be $6.4 trillion. You know what that means? What that means is that if you were to invest in something in Nigeria, the economy as of today, and you were not to do anything, you are just sustaining it, you're not growing it, you're not you're not doing any strategy for it to see rapid growth. As of 2050. Whatever business you have would have grown like 16 times. You understand? So now imagine if you were to start a business now and you were to nurture it, and in the next 20 years, which is not always a long time, next 20 years is not a long time. You understand? Your business could have grown like 1,000x or like probably 1,000,000x by that time. You understand? Because what I'm talking about is even linear growth. Most growth really is really linear. Usually growth, they're mostly geometric in when markets grow or when businesses grow. So essentially what I'm saying is that there's still opportunity in Nigeria. And someone said multinationals only ignore Nigeria at their peril. Someone said that. I'm trying to find out what the quote would give that. And so what you see that almost every company, as bad as Nigeria is, still has a strategy for Nigeria. Yes, they look at things are difficult, the political situation, insecurity, everything, but they have a strategy for Nigeria. Well, whether their strategy is in establishing in Ghana to be able to serve Nigeria, or establishing in Benin Republic to be able to serve Nigeria, or they still have it, or establishing somewhere close to Nigeria to be able to service Nigeria, they always still have a strategy that includes Nigeria. So if multinationals and foreigners could have that kind of mindset, then how about Nigerians? And I feel that and how about Muslims? Sister Mutia talked about we not being in valuable. Take for example now, in the last 2 years we've had 2 or 3 startups who raised money and people made up to 1,000x in the money in the funds they invested in those capital. How many Muslims were amongst them? What that means that if that trend continues in the next 50 years, the situation we see ourselves in terms of the way the Muslims are would not change because economic power, financial power will still remain with the non-Muslims because there are a lot of them, in as much as they continue to say they don't believe in Nigeria, they are still invested. So how about Muslims? So I think we Muslims should consider, we should look for business opportunities, we should look for startup opportunities, things that we can invest in Nigeria, knowing that Nigeria is a growth market. Now, there's a key stat here that says 400 million people in 2050. 400 million people. For people who live in Lagos, you can see how crowded Lagos is. If Lagos is about 20, 25, or 30 million, what that means is about 2050, we'll be looking at close to 60 or 70, 80 million people in Lagos. Now, 60 or 70 million people living in these people will eat, these people will live in houses, these people will need electricity, these people will need telecommunications, these people will need schools. And I beg to say that Nigeria is such a small landmass. When you compare to the population, compare our population to our landmass, we are quite small. What that means is that we will need more innovative. We need to innovate to be able to fit in 400 million people, or even 60 or 70 or 50 million people into this small space that is called Lagos. We would need innovations. And what that means is that if those innovations come in and they are started by you, Nigerians who live in Nigeria, who know the problems that we speak right now, there's a potential that whatever you start now, whatever you're able to nurture to 2050, would have grown by 1,000x or 1,000,000x. The next millionaires will come from the people, the next billionaires, the next Bill Gates, the people will come from people who invest in countries like Nigeria, countries like India, countries like those countries that would have exponential growth. Now, people who invest now, who study now, are able to sustain their businesses up to that level. So we go next to, still talking about Nigeria. The Nigerian dream is not a fluke because I feel that it is important we hammer this into people because there's a huge population of Nigeria that they have given up on Nigeria, and it's not strange why they would give up on Nigeria, and you may not be able to blame them why they would give up on Nigeria, because if you look at companies like MTN, when MTN came to Nigeria in 2001, what the analysts were saying about Nigeria is what they were saying right now. We just left a 30-year military dictatorship. Things were bleak. If you look at the stats there, they were as bad as they were now. You understand? The only difference was that we just had democracy, and there was like a bit of democracy. But economic-wise, in terms of the indicators, it was as bad as it is now. But I look at MTN now. Other companies also waved on Nigeria. Companies like Vodafone waved on Nigeria like, look, too high risk. Now MTN is reaping the fruit of what they staying over 21 years or 20 years in Nigeria. They are reaping. Nigeria is one of their highest and one of their most profitable businesses. If not for Nigeria, maybe MTN will not be as big as what they are right now. And it's not just MTN. There are other companies like Tolerance, there's MultiChoice, there's a lot of other companies like that. South African businesses, foreign businesses who came into Nigeria, risked everything and invested in Nigeria. And in 20 years' time, they are reaping the benefits of what they've invested, Olams, things like that. So it's not all gloom and doom. So it's very important we remember that, because like what Sister Mutia said, it's the mindset. When I go on the road and I see litters or I see gutters filled up, I see opportunities. Yes, I see Nigerians are dirty, they keep littering up, the government is not packing all of this, but I also see, look, this is a recycling opportunity. Do you understand? This is, I see opportunities. I go on the road, I see people. Recently, I was at Kitchen Market with some of my friends for a market survey, and I still saw opportunities. I saw how people were trading. I'm like, look, and I know how the market is at the moment now. The way pepper is being sold or the way perishables are being sold, it cannot be sustained in the next 20 years, because the generation of the 20 to 30 years old we have there right now don't want to go to that market. They don't, they want to just order out food. They don't. So if those people in kitchen market bringing out the paper, they need ways to be able to still sell their market. Someone needs to solve that problem. And there's a startup called Price Pally. And this year they raised 6 figures. They didn't release the actual amount they raised, but they raised 6 figures in dollars to be able to digitize that value chain. What they do is that on your app, you message them and I want a basket of tomato, and someone goes there, they give you the price, they take it for you, wash it, and they raise 6 figures. So there are still opportunities everywhere. Look at the spare part market. Look at, essentially, Nigeria is a gold mine for people who have the heart and mind to be able to, to delve into it and work on it and to be able to extract value out of that market. Now, and Nigeria is still delivering. It's not all gloom and doom. Flutterwave started in 2016. Now they're worth $1 million. Sorry, they're called a unicorn. That's $1 billion. Their valuation is $1 billion. You understand? So, and they just started in 2016. That's barely 5 years ago. Interswitch also the same. You understand? And they hold the third position behind banks like GT Bank, Zenith Bank, as the most valuable financial institutions in Nigeria. You understand? Imagine Kuda Bank. Kuda Bank is now worth $500 million. Started in 2019. What that means is that if you had invested $100K in 2019, you'll be worth $1.5 million today. And that is what I'm essentially pitching to you, that look, it's not all gloom and doom. Rarely would you find growth like this outside markets like Africa. In places like, in other markets like in the US, they're already crowded. People are essentially looking for totally new technologies, not existing business models that you can digitize. They're looking for, okay, what's the totally new thing, which is difficult to discover. Unlike in Nigeria, where you can virtually just go to K2 or Alaba market, pick something that people are doing and digitize it, and you would basically make money out of it. And that's how Nigeria is right now. So in as much as it's important that you have backup plans and things like that, don't give up on Nigeria. Don't give up on the fact that there are still opportunities. Yes, it's hard. There's no light, infrastructure, government is always, increasing your tax and all of those kind of things. As a business, in terms of opportunity, Nigeria is still a gold mine. And that's why, as bad as Nigeria is, the foreigners are still trooping into Nigeria. You still see Chinese people coming. Someone told me about going to look for land somewhere in Oyo State, and when they were in Oyo State, they spent close to 3 hours going into the deep bush looking for a particular land to be able to do a particular, and they went for 2 hours. 2 hours, they did not see any houses. It was just bush. And when they got into the bush, after 2 hours, they still found Chinese people in the bush doing some form of lumbering or mining. You understand? So those are the people who have left their country and they see opportunities in Nigeria and they come here to mining. So the opportunities in Nigeria is for our ability to be able to tap into these opportunities. And in the subsequent slide, I spoke about South African economy. Look at South African economy. South African economy, GDP, South African GDP and Nigeria is almost at par. While Nigeria has surpassed it a bit. But if you go to South Africa, one of the things you see is that you see a lot of companies. You see that the economy has debt. But in Nigeria, when you come here, if you move from the airport to somewhere like VI, you would, the billboards you will see, the adverts you see, I'm sure you'll be able to see, they are repeated. You see Stanbic here, you see Stanbic again, you see MTN, you see MTN again. But in South Africa, you can move from the airport to a place as far as Pretoria, and all the billboards you'll be seeing, you may not see a billboard repeated again. So what that means is that they have a lot of companies. The economy has depth, has value. Unlike the Nigerian economy, and look at it, if the South African GDP with a population of about 60 million, and the Nigerian economy almost at the same value with a population of about 200 million, it tells you that our economy still does not have the kind of debt it should have. And that itself is an opportunity. It's an opportunity for us to start new businesses. It's an opportunity for us to be able to look at what can I do to create a niche for myself. It's an opportunity to be able to, to be able to say, this is a problem I would like to solve, and you solve it, and you reap huge value. So let me go back to, so what does a startup need to survive in Nigeria? Which is like the question I'm supposed to answer. All of those were just preambles to be able to put us in the mindset to be able to answer this question. Now, what a startup needs is not any different from what you would need in a place like America. okay, well, a bit different. There's some things that are a bit different, and I'll point them out, but they are not entirely different. It's just the mindset of how you look at it. Now, first of all, as a startup founder, one of the things we spoke about is the risk inherent in a startup, the risk of failure. We already said about, in Nigeria, they say 61%. I'm saying consider it as 98% of startups will fail. So what that means is that for every startup founder that you can see that is reaping benefits, that is earning $1 million, most of them would have tried something 2, 3, 4 times. So failure is not a problem when it comes to startup. Failing in a startup is actually a badge of honor if you fail well. If you fail, you need to take some people's money, which is one of the problems people who invest in startups in Nigeria complain about, that someone takes their money and buys a car, marries a wife, and instead of investing the money in business, just hits the money. You understand? If you failed in a startup and did everything you're supposed to, it's actually a badge of honor. And people who raise funds like people like that, oh, this person tried, he did all what he could do, but it wasn't just the time for the business to grow, because businesses have their time and place. Sometimes a business could just be in the wrong time, the wrong place at the wrong time. And if you were to be taken somewhere else at another time, it would just blossom. So failing in startup is not a problem. But one of the things you need to, as a startup founder, is that you need to be diversified. We all hear the story of Bill Gates starting Microsoft, Steve Jobs, who else? Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos. And one of the things that all of these people have, because of the way America is that they could essentially, because startup, you're going to risk innovation, you're not sure of revenue, but you're just going for high, you're not sure that this thing will even work. So you're going into it and you've started it, and it's not generating money first month, second month, third month. As a Nigerian, because our social structures are bad, there's a possibility we say, oh, I can't continue this business because it's not even able to feed you. Your kids are calling, it could even be your mom, your dad. People, you have responsibility. You need to pay for house rent, you need to pay for the lights, you need to pay for the internet, you need to take care of yourself. And you're doing a startup. No one will listen to you. Everyone will like, oh, what is he doing? He's just being irresponsible. He's running from responsibility. He's saying he's doing startups and he's not bringing them money. So as a startup founder, you need to be able to have an alternate source of income while your startup is growing. It is very important. And that's the only thing that will make you stay the course. The only reason why some startups fail is because they did not stay the course. You understand? Probably maybe if they had stayed 1 more year or 2 more years, they would have broken even. But because they could not stay the course, because the startup was still not generating money at that time and wasn't even able to meet their basic income, they had to leave and go for something else. Flutterwave that I mentioned, the CEO of Flutterwave, people talk about Flutterwave now, but they don't know that he worked 2 years. But after he started Flutterwave, he continued to work in Access Bank for 2 years till he decided that he was going to leave and focus on the business, because within that 2 years, Flutterwave could not pay salary, could not carry his bills of what he was doing. So, and that's why people usually advise that if you have a paid job right now, or you have a part-time job, probably continue part-time job while you're doing the business on weekends or after you close, so that you need, as a Muslim, you need to be concerned about amana and trust, that you're not impacting the person that is your primary employer, but you're also growing your business on the sideline. You understand? You could also be earning a salary and employ someone to do the business for you, paying the person out of your salary. People do things like that. Because until you get to a point where this thing can now sustain me, let me come out, hit it and run with it. So that's part of the things that you need to have. In places like America, you may not need to have that, because there's a social structure, as in you probably have parents who have garages, who have things like that. But for a Nigerian, you need to consider that, because startup success doesn't come easy. Even Flutterwave that came in essentially into a new sector that was solving a problem that was real at that time. Because when people like Flutterwave came in, they were essentially fighting people like InterSwitch. Who I remember at the time, InterSwitch, if you wanted to do a payment gateway for InterSwitch, you had to pay an upfront cost of about 100K. Now, but Flutterwave came in and essentially made those things free. You just needed to log into a website, do your KYC, and it was free. You can have a payment page on your website or whatever thing you need to do. But even still then, they were not, all of them did not jump in with their 2 legs. They had a backup plan. So always have a backup plan. Probably maybe it's your parents. Maybe you need to talk to your parents and say, oh, I'm about to do this thing. I've looked at this thing. It's going to pay off. It's going to pay off, but I need you guys to support me. I need to still continue to collect money from you. You could be married and tell your wife, like, but madam, it's going to be tough for the next 4 or 5 years. Maybe we need to move to a cheaper place like Ilori and somewhere like Oyo or somewhere. I leave Lagos for a while. But definitely once I break even, I'll bring you people back, things like that. But you need to have a back, because if you cannot stay the course, you would definitely fail. And the reason why I'm bringing this is, I'm here to talk about growing a startup in a harsh environment. And the reason why I'm bringing this is that a lot of the things that make startup fail is really, when you look at it, is really not just one factor. It's usually a multiplicity of factors. You usually never, because there was no light. And if you investigate, you find out because there was no light and there was no this, there was no. So these are kind of things that could, eventually put stress on a startup founder and eventually give up and they leave whatever they started and just move on. Do you understand? So financial stability, having other sources of income is very important for a startup founder so that you can be able to dig deep, because sometimes startup work could be tiring. You work Monday, Tuesday, or Fridays, you're working at night you're doing presentation, during the day you're doing operation, or weekend you're meeting people to talk about partnership. It's usually very, very stressful. Now, the second, which is a more important factor, is the product market fit. What's product market fit? Or service market fit? Whatever you're doing, how are you sure that the market wants it? How are you sure people will pay for it? Did you do studies? Did you have you done a test run? Did you how did you know? Who did you speak? Did you just some people just wake up and they say, oh, I want to do this, or you saw something that they're doing in the US and you feel because they're doing it in the US, the Nigerians will also need it. It doesn't matter. Nigerians may not need what they're doing in the US. Do you understand? Some of the startups that work. So, for example, there's a startup in the US that handles pets. For example, now they do pet walking. If you have a pet, you need to be able to walk it around. White people usually walk their pets because their pet needs to exercise, particularly dogs and maybe some other animals. There's a startup. I forgot the name of the startup. There's a startup that handles that, and the startup is doing quite well. You understand? But if you were to think about it and say, oh, that's what I want to do, and you bring it to Nigeria, who's going to, every Nigerian has even eaten, you understand? Not to now talk about walking his pet or feeding his pet. So your product, does it have product market fit? Is the problem you're solving, is it large enough? You understand? And the reason why you need to know is large enough, because if 100% of the market is unable to even cover it, because cost of doing business is high in Nigeria, which is one of the reasons why businesses have problems in Nigeria. So take, for example, MTN. There was a report that came out and that MTN is also a mini power station, because for every base station that MTN has, they have 2 generators. You have 2 generators, a backup, a primary and a secondary, and you also have a fuel tank. Do you understand? A diesel fuel tank, and you manage all of that. MTN is a mini power company just because they want to be able to keep all of their base stations up. So now imagine all of this cost. Now the value you're extracting, what you're selling, because if you're running a business in Nigeria, you must have a generator. You must have a backup to that generator in case that generator just decides to pack up. Do you understand? If for example you are doing something, you must have internet. You must have a backup to that internet if that internet decides I'm not working today. You understand? You must have all of these things to all of where you're. So is the value, is the market, the problem you're solving, is it large enough? You understand? What if someone else decides to come into that market? Maybe you've started this business, you're working. And one of the things that startup founders you should know is that Nigerians are fast copycats. Immediately Nigerians sees you doing something and making money, it's easy for someone, probably a politician or someone who has money, that has been looking for, oh, okay, this guy is making money, to just do the business again. Someone else has started it close to you. So Nigerians copy fast, you understand? But that's not for someone who has gone into it as a startup partner, that shouldn't be a problem for you. But is it large enough to accommodate more entrants, so that, when more entrants enter, they now suck up the value so that you cannot even sustain your cost again. Will this problem still be there in the future? Are you solving a problem that will disappear? There are some problems that will disappear. Say, for example, now, let's say someone invested, and this is also applicable to small business, someone invested in selling recharge cards. You know, there are a lot of businesses. I know a lot of people who were into the recharge card business, making a lot of money, but look at them now. All of the digital outlets that people have created have virtually knocked them off. They are no longer in existence. Are you doing a business that could be knocked off in the next 4 or 5 years? You need to look at the business. Or the business that you are focusing on, is it possible that something will come and knock it off? Do you understand? And someone will just create a technology and that business will no longer exist again. Or is it, some things like that? Is it a government regulation that you know already that government is saying, or some other countries have done something similar to that? And you're like, okay, it's possible that Nigeria may also do the same. You understand? Is it possible that something will come and knock it off and so that you won't be able to continue? Then there's a mental model. There's a model that the former CEO of Amazon uses. He says that while people ask for the next new thing, what he asks is what are the things people are doing now that would not change in the future? And the reason why is that if you say the next new thing, the next new if you are focused on what's the next new thing next year, the next new thing next year may not be the new thing in 3 years' time. So take for example, there was a time, take for example, okay, I don't have an example now, but I'll come back to that. So so Amazon typically invests in things that you don't think that people will stop doing. So for example, Amazon believes that people will not stop needing to buy stuff, which is just, no matter how advanced we are, even if, for example, Allah spares the world to get 3,000, people will still need to eat food. The only thing that will differ is how they eat or the type of food that they are eating, but people will still need. So they invest in things like that. They look for, okay, what are the things that would not change? People, no matter how, Nigeria will still continue to wear clothes. It's the kind of clothes that we are wearing that will matter. Now, okay, a practical example of that is in the 90s, there was, or in the 90s up to, probably because of the purchasing power, and as the economy liberalized, and the early 2000s, there was an influx of secondhand clothes and things like that into Nigeria, and it affected the tailoring market. Do you understand? It affected the tailoring market, and a lot of tailors went out of jobs. Being a tailor was not the end thing, because people would only wear native, maybe on occasions, parties or Eids or festival. So, and that wasn't enough. But all of a sudden, the young generation we have now have now seen fashion in wearing native attires, and all of a sudden there is a rapid rise in tailors and designers young people wearing clothes, and so tailors and designers are now making a lot of money. Now, the interesting thing about that market is that you find out that someone comes to your office, he's not a tailor, he doesn't know how to sew, but he knows design, he takes your measurements, he says, oh, he charges you 30,000, he says, can sew for you an agbada that is slim fit, is short, they just modify everything, and they take it to Lagos and give it to a tailor, they pay the tailor 5,000, and they extract the value. And you see the trend is rising. So now look at something like that. Even Amazon would have been in Nigeria, what an Amazon would have looked at, but people will still continue to wear clothes. They may look at it and say, oh, but maybe people will be wearing foreign clothes, or people can even wear traditional wear, but redesigned. So they may invest in the two, and so we invest in this, we invest in it, because that's what they do. They when they started their audiobook sessions, they knew that people will continue to digital book session, the people continue to buy physical book, but they also knew that the future would be more digital. So what they did was they spun up the two units, and they told each of them to compete against each other. They thought, okay, you compete against this. Whoever, let's see how they can best themselves. So they continue to sell hard copy books, and they're also selling digital books on one hand. You understand? So that's how companies think. It's very important that you have product market. Without product market fit, and that's why you see companies. So and it's very important in Nigeria because you don't have forever. You can see companies in the US and the West, because of the amount of funding that they can be 5 years, 6 years, 7 years looking for product market fits. But as in Nigeria, you don't have that opportunity. Within the first year, if you're not able to bring in money, or second or third year, you're not able to turn revenue or make any sense of what you're doing, you understand? You essentially become obsolete, and the startup will fail because people will stop investing in you. You understand? Then the next thing is cash flow and liquidity. It's very important that whatever startup you do needs to generate enough cash, because you need cash to survive. Cash is the bloodstream of every business. Without cash, the business will fail. Forget the promises, forget the, oh, this is what we'll be doing in future. It is very important you're able to raise cash very, very early. Now, capital injection comes with fundraising. If your idea is good enough, it's very important that for businesses to survive in Nigeria, you need people to come and put in money into these businesses, because even if you are generating cash, you may be generating cash but not making profit, because there are two different things. You understand? You may be generating cash but not making profit, but you need extra people to come in to put money into the business, be able to grow the business for you. You understand? Those money, the money that you put in it, because some business are only profitable at scale. You understand? Particularly in countries like Nigeria that have high cost of doing businesses, you need to be able to scale well above your cost of doing business to be able to make profit. You understand? So then another thing is early partnerships. It's important that as a startup founder, you're looking for partnerships. You're looking for businesses that you can sell, because partnership is an easy route. So for example, it depends if you're doing B2B, B2C. Even if you're doing B2C, it would be very good and wise for you to look for a company that requires the service that you're offering, even if it's a modification of the service to sell to them, so that you can act as additional revenue stream. Because like we said, revenue is a life, is the blood of the business. If a business, just like what happens when you run out of blood, the same will happen to you if you run out of generating cash, getting money. You just, every operation will just get, your operation will just stop. So it's very important that you look for a partnership. Foundry was able to partner with Access Bank at the very early stage, and that's one of the reasons why it was able to continue. The CEO was able to continue to work in Access Bank. It was their first institutional partner. They picked it to him. So if you have an idea right now, you're working in a company, maybe your first customer should be your company to say, okay, I have this idea. These are my people doing it. This idea will be of benefit to you. And most companies are looking for things like that because they've seen it. They've seen how they've been disrupted. They've seen how recently I was speaking to a stockbroker and he told me business is dull, that the young generation are not buying Nigerian shares. They are going they're buying shares from apps like Chaka, and they're buying foreign shares. Nobody wants to invest in Nigeria. The way the dollar, increased inflation, exchange rate, all of that, the young generation don't want to buy shares. They're investing their money in shares outside the country. So capital market players are not finding it funny. So if you have an idea, for example, that can solve a problem for a capital market player, they will hug you, they will take that from you, and they'll take the terms. If it's the term that, okay, I will continue to work with you while my people are doing it, but I will make you my first institutional partner, this, that, and they see the value in it. So it's very important at the early stage that you're looking for consistent sources of revenue when you're doing your startup. These are the reasons why startups fail. You understand? These are the reasons why businesses fail. The another thing is be diversified. Be diversified. Try to ensure that you are doing other things aside from your existing business. You understand? Try to see that you have. So, for example, as a startup, you need to have more than a single product line, because anything can happen in Nigeria. part of the uncertainty in Nigeria is a regulatory action. Take, for example, OPay in Nigeria. OPay started, they had a mobile app, even though they always intended to have the app as a super app to be able to do other things, but they were always, buying credit, selling credit. But the trust of their business was essentially the bike business, moving people, transportation, up and down, things like that. And then Lagos State came and said, no, you can't do business in Lagos State, and everything went down. But because they also had other businesses that they had leveraged on, they were doing before, and because people already had those apps on their phone, they just continue to add more services to it, add buying recharge card, add paying for your NEPA bills, loan taking, due days, POS, and they continue to go in business. And also, luckily for them, what the Lagos State government did for them essentially became a blessing in disguise, because not long after the pandemic and the lockdown, imagine if they had all of the assets, all of the bike assets that they had, when they were doing their transportation business and they had gone into a lockdown, then imagine what would have happened to them. So the Lagos State regulatory action against them and all of those other people essentially became a blessing also for Gokada, also because they were essentially, the pandemic coming and the government now allowing logistic companies essentially turned a logistic business, which was a very difficult business to operate in Nigeria before the pandemic, into a profitable venture. People now needed things because they could not move around, and they were willing to pay more for those things because people weren't willing to pay that much before, but now they couldn't even move about because of the pandemic, and they will now pay more. So, all of these things, be diversified, ensure that you are doing 2 or 3 or 4 products at the same time, so that if the regulatory, for example, the CBN came with an action, and those in economies like Nigeria, you should expect it should be part of your risk assessment. We'll be going into a slide where we'll be talking about risk assessment. You should be part of it. A regulatory action can happen. Someone can come up today now in Nigeria now and say, you cannot look at people who essentially were social media influencers, and the only thing they were doing was Twitter. Where are they now today? Do you understand? If your only advert strategy was using Twitter, where are you today? You understand? Yes, you could have been making money, but now Twitter is like close to zero unless you are using a VPN or anything like that, or you're outside the country. You understand? So you need to be ready for regulatory actions in countries like Nigeria. Then reading the Times, being lucky, and Allah's barakah. Reading the Times is, sometimes, like I said, the business has a time and a place. The CEO of Microsoft spoke about digital. So take a company like Zoom. A company like Zoom had been on the fringes before. They had an app, but businesses did not trust Zoom, because they were like, who is this business coming to say they want to be doing video conferencing? Are they spying on us? So people would rather go for things like Cisco web conference solution, go for the big ones, they are via, and even so, it was a problem because most of the meetings people would have had before the pandemic, most of the meetings before, people would have been in their offices. In fact, I can remember when I was still with Vodacom at that time, we had a discussion with HR to say, HR, let us work from home. We're an internet company. We should be able to work from home. She said, no, she cannot guarantee that we'll be working from home, that is not possible. Immediately the pandemic started and they started lockdown, they were begging us like, please go and work from home. Like, so we can work from home. Do you understand? So, and that is how it is. Sometimes there is just a time and a place for every time. Some people can actually see into the future. Yes, nobody could have predicted the pandemic, but there are other things you could see how people, we can see how attitude. So, for example, the example I spoke about K2 market, it is clear the way K2 market is today cannot continue to be like that. The way people are selling pepper, the way people, Nigerians are eating, the way we are doing a lot of things cannot continue in the next 20, 30 years. You understand? So what that means is that it is up for disruption. It is up for people to be able to combine existing technologies, existing knowledge, to be able to fashion out a product to be able to solve that problem. So reading the Times, being lucky, and just praying for Allah's barakah. When Lagos State essentially stopped bikes, some businesses were at lost. There was a CEO, there was a Bangladeshi CEO, I think Gokada, that was, the guy later left Nigeria, went to New York, and he was killed in New York. It was sad because they had done a lot of things. They've spent a lot of money, but now the business had re-strategized and they have gone into delivery full scale, and they are making more money in delivery. And because the delivery business essentially it has become a boom market because of the pandemic. And there are a lot of other industries like that, a lot of other things like that that are up for disruption, that is just for us to be able to sit down, put on our thinking caps and look at it and to say, what are the things that would change for the future? Then risks. I put this slide here, talk about risks. Harsh environment is essentially about.
I have to be rounding up now.
Okay, yeah, this is actually my last slide. So risk. Now, in the risk, you see a matrix here, the known. So for example, a business going to Nigeria, playing Nigeria, knows that there's a light problem in Nigeria. So light problem is not a risk in Nigeria. If you come to me, when people say that the reason why they failed out of Nigeria is because of light, it's just excuses. I had a boss, a South African boss, that when we were doing reviews of base station availability, you dare not tell him that it was because of power. He doesn't want to hear it. You say, put 10 battery banks here, put this. Yes, you can say human action. Someone went there and stole our battery. Then you say put a camera there, something like that. So we need to be able to classify all. Doing business in Nigeria requires you sitting down, identifying all of the possible risks, even risks that you can never imagine, that one day that Nigerian government can ban Twitter, or one day something will happen, or one day you can plan as high as maybe one day a tanker will fall down and it will block half of Lagos. But you need to be able to understand your risk. Without understanding your risk, you'll be exposed to a lot of externalities that can essentially cripple your business. So I think a lot of all the other questions will be answered during question and answer. But I would like to end with this like that. Allah has enjoyed excellence with regards to everything. So when you kill in a good manner. When you slaughter in a good manner. So every one of you should sharpen his knife and let the slaughter animal die. The messenger of Allah has said what Allah expects from us is excellence. That in whatever we do, we need to plan, we need to think about all of those things so that we do not go into it and now start citing excuses that we could have thought about during planning stage. So I would like to encourage everyone to consider, if you're doing a startup right now, try to use all of the tool set and things I've mentioned to be able to, try and see how you can make your business better. And if you're not into it, consider doing it because of the payoff in the next 10, 50 years from now. You understand? Consider the payoff, and also consider how you can better position the Muslims in Nigeria for better positions in terms of economic position to be able, so that we can be able to influence things. So basically that ends my talk on growing startup in harsh environments. I hope I've been able to communicate. I certainly hope that I was able to try as hard as well as Dr. Pokwala. I doubt if I was able to do so, but so let's go into the question and answers now.
Please note that there was no competition, and you went deeper than we were hoping for. At some point, I was like, this is a business school class. I hope that people are paying attention. MashaAllah, Jazakumullah khairan for that beautiful session. It was an amazing session, like if I Abdulaziz just said, and I agree. Because every time you were speaking, it took me back to school and listening to every facilitator repeat some of the things you've repeated about innovating and growing a mindset of resilience, and really understanding what it takes to survive as a business. Thank you so much. And if anybody has missed this talk, I have tried for all of you. I have tried for you. So the questions are plenty. However, this is the time we're supposed to break for Sola. So we just take just one question.
Okay.
And whatever question that is left will be added to some of the ones that we're going to ask you during the panel session if we're able to, inshallah. Staridotullah, you're welcome. So someone says that, and this is a very good one, is the last question on the thread, and it says, how can a startup that is in debt come out of it easily and we thrive? So I don't know if that's necessarily a startup, it could also be a small business, but regardless, how can a business already in debt come out of it easily and start to thrive?
Okay, so probably maybe it could be a startup, it could be a small business. And one of the things you want to do is you need to be able to, first of all, you need to be sincere that you are actually in debt for the right reasons, because you could be in debt for the wrong reasons. So if you're in debt for the wrong reasons, there's really there's no solution to that, because you would have lost the trust of people and it's going to be very difficult. But if you're in debt for the right reasons and the market still exists, because one of the things as a startup founder is don't be too emotionally attached to your startup so that you are not afraid of killing it. There's a time when it comes to a business, look, this business cannot go beyond, you see all of the external forces pushing on you and there's no growth, and you've got to, sometimes you go to someone else and say, look at all of this, is there a way out of this problem? And the person tells you, no, there's no way out of this problem, this is the end. Then you need to be able to kill that business and move on. But if there's still hope, one of the things that we found out, what I've seen in Nigeria, is that Nigerians do not like partnerships. Maybe you need to get other people to come to sell shares, sell a stake in your business, to be able to raise money, to clear your debts, and also grow the market, grow your business. Maybe you need to look for institutional investors, your friends, things like that. But one of the things I found is that Nigerians prefer to own 100% of 10 million naira and all like 20% of 1 billion naira. Do you understand? So sometimes you don't have to own it all. If you look at businesses like Amazon, if you look at their cap stable, people like Steve Jobs, they don't have, or Jeff Bezos, they may not have up to 40% or 30%. Most of these are sold out. But that 30% of a $1 trillion company is worth more than 10% of maybe a 1 billion or 1 million. So you need to be able to bring in like minds to be able to see how you can. Then if, for example, there is something you're doing operation-wise, you also need to improve it. It requires sitting down, being sincere, and re-strategizing to be able to move your business forward.
Mashallah, mashallah. And that's it. It doesn't get better than that. There's a question that is tempting me. However, I will not ask it of you. I will bring it to the panel session when we come back from the break. Jazakumullah khairan, Mr. Bola, for the time. Thank you. I can't even find the words to thank you. For me, one of many things stood out for me, many things, and I believe that I shared one of the latest one on the group for those people checking their WhatsApp group as we're going. And I like the part that you said that power isn't a risk for business, rather it's an excuse to kill the business, because all of us already know. So when people say Nigeria I think there's a question about how do you invest in businesses in Nigeria without, let me check, is it without risk, or is there a safe way to invest in startup in Nigeria? I don't know. I think that would be the very first question I'll ask you, but could you quickly give an answer so that that's out of the way? Because I find there is
no. So if there's no risk, there is no benefits. As in, if something is not risky, if, for example, you just have to go somewhere and there's no risk at all, there's no benefit to it. In fact, the risk for some people, for risk analysts, and which is part is they look for the most riskiest. Oh, this is risky. What that means is that no one, because part of the things when you do business strategies, you're looking at entry barriers. What are the things that will prevent other people to come into this business? So a very risky business would also have a very high entry barrier. You get high entry barrier, so people won't be able to come into that business. So you can go there and just sit down alone. So take, for example, the example I started about SpaceX. Only three people doing private people doing space exploration. Richard Branson, Jeff Bezos, and Elon Musk. And these are like the most richest people in the world. As rich as Dangote in, he cannot say he want to venture in that kind of business because it is high technology, so risk is good. You need to be able to embrace risk. But what you need to be able to do is to be able to manage it, control it, and just manage it. But risk, as a startup founder, I can even say that if you don't like risk, don't go to startup. Just go and get a paid employment. But if you hate risk and you don't want uncertainty, don't even go into a startup or even business. Don't go into business.
Don't go into business at all. Don't go into business at all.
Just be an employee and do ojata or as in, just wake up, you always get your salary. Just do your duty and get your salary. So, and that's it. Thank you very much.
And that's it. And that answers it. I think that this also brings us to that mindset part of the conference. The fact that a lot of us, 80% of us we have the fear of taking risk, fear of doing things new. There's no safe way nothing amazing happens in a safe place, quite frankly. Nothing awesome happens in your comfort zone. And to think of investment and think of safety, we are not ready here. This is not to say that you should take upon yourself what you are not ready for or what you don't believe in or what scares you. We must also go back to the first presentation on SWOT analysis. And then, of course, we've had a conversation on self-awareness, understanding yourself and who you are. If you like to push yourself out of your comfort zone, it takes steps and gentle steps that you can cope with. You cannot do business in this country. Scale any business, startup or small business or whatever level, even to sell pepper in the markets. You cannot take any of those businesses if you are not ready to take risk and deal with some of all the odds that are thrown against us. So I was saying that I particularly like that he said that power is not any risk. In fact, that you have power is the anomaly. So if you're starting a business and you say power is the reason, no, power cannot be the reason. Power may be a threat, yes. However, it has a solution. I do work and live in Ikeja, and we have power for like 20 hours a day in the very least. And there are days where we go, there are weeks where we go days without a power cut. But there are days that I will sit up on this chair, ready to go live, and then the light goes off. And I would be like, what? Light never goes off on Saturday. The light never goes off on Sunday. But when I sat down on this seat today, the power went off for 2 hours and then it went off again. So what am I going to say? I would say I don't have a generator because we always have light, but this is Nigeria. It always goes off. And they don't tell anybody. They don't send a letter to anyone that it will be off. So we need to look at some of the odds that we have and really be honest and realistic with ourselves to put those normal national odds aside and truly go for what we want to. It is possible for anyone to do it. So it is definitely possible for us as Muslims to do it. May Allah ease our affairs. At this juncture, I will ask that we are going to take a break for Solar to Zoe. Depending on wherever you are, if you're in Nigeria, we're going to be praying Zoe. I think people ahead of time probably have prayed it and maybe going for Asu, but we are operating on the Nigerian time and it is time for Zoe. It was time about 10 minutes ago in Ikeja. So we will come back to resume. The room will be opened at 10:30. And the first presentation after break is the fourth panel session that will be going live, I believe at 1:45, inshallah. May Allah spare our lives to then. Thank you so much for your attention. We hope to have you back fully to learn more and be better versions of ourselves. So you're all free to excuse yourself. Please join back at 1:30 for the next set of sessions. Thank you.